think the most important benefit of Harmony and similar projects that look at big data and artificial intelligence in blood cancers is that by aggregating large pools of data and looking for patterns in these data, we may be able to discern certain patterns and features that determine the health and the prognosis of blood cancer patients. This oftentimes can also shed light on certain forgotten needs, like are there perhaps such genetic markers or other biological markers that determine the outlook and the prognosis of people living with blood cancers, and how does that then also influence their possible treatment options? And alternatively, how it can lead to the development of new approaches, new therapeutic approaches, and treatment options. It is essential in blood cancers to determine the treatment outcomes in a way that matches both the requirements and expectations of the healthcare providers, the medical community, such as researchers and clinicians, but also those of the patients. This is why Harmony has invested substantial amount of time and effort into developing core outcome sets together with the patient community. Patients have been consistently involved in the development and design of these core outcome sets for each hematological malignancy separately, but also in an overarching manner for all hematologic malignancies included in Harmony. It seems obvious that the better the outcomes are defined on the basis of using big data and certain artificial intelligence tools based on the use of big data, we may develop tools that can ease the diagnosis of patients, speed it up, and thereby also ensure that the diagnosis or the diagnoses are more precise, more accurate. Just simply by looking at the patients, at the individual patients' markers and comparing those markers to markers or omics, and comparing those to the big data sets, again, we may discover certain patterns that can direct the diagnosis in one or the other direction, and thereby also speed it up and make it more accurate.
So the key challenge for us in treating multiple myeloma is its diversity, and this leads to major differences between individual patients in terms of response to treatment in particular. And this is why knowing what the most successful treatments were in specific patient subgroups will help us making treatment decisions for current and future patients. Big data platforms like Harmony should facilitate the growth of personalized medicine and therefore the identification of the most effective treatments for a given patient according to his or her disease characteristics, previous responses to treatment, age, frailty, cytogenetics, etc., etc. These platforms, they can also help us identify and meet the forgotten and unmet needs of patients living with myeloma. And this means identifying subgroups of patients who do not respond or respond poorly to certain, if not all, treatments. And finding the right treatment for these patients is a major unmet need right now. This would also be identifying high risk patients with poor prognosis and accelerating the development of risk prediction tools that will be highly important. And we really hope that this can be achieved using big data. We also think big data should be used to accelerate the development of new myeloma drugs by identifying subgroups of patients who are not responding to existing treatments and help characterize these subgroups at clinical, genetic, and molecular levels to design new treatments that are more likely to work for these patients in particular. Ultimately, big data will help identify best practices in clinical management to make better decisions related to treatment. And because it's not enough to only make better treatment decisions, diagnosis should be considered, because diagnosis needs to be the correct one as well. And for that, big data platform like Harmony can also help by using it to diagnose patients faster and more precisely. And we hope this will also help improve outcomes. We also think that big data should be used to detect the barriers and the areas that need to be improved in the field of myeloma to ensure quality of life and patient centricity in myeloma research, to address questions that matter to the myeloma community. And one of them, which is the most important one right now, is how the treatments affects patients' everyday life. And in other words, what are the quality of life and patient reported outcome results related to specific treatments. And this is highly important to make sure that not only treatment efficacy is considered in treatment decisions and clinical research, but also the impact on patient lives. And for that, we need to encourage the growth of big data platforms like Harmony, but also clinicians to include quality of life data in future contribution to Harmony, and make sure that the real world evidence data that will be uploaded on the platform in the future will also include this quality of life data. In general, quality of life needs to be better and more often measured in clinical practice, and needs to be given full consideration in treatment decisions or any clinical intervention. So, my take home message on big data will be that there's big hope for big data to facilitate personalized medicine, to design new and better treatments that will answer patients' unmet needs, and to improve diagnosis and prognosis, but also to encourage research and improve the transparency regarding treatment and their consequences on quality of life. Thank you.